Rahm Emanuel is known as one of the most influential political figures of his era, a U.S. congressman, White House chief of staff for President Barack Obama, and later the mayor of Chicago. But long before the speeches, campaigns, and headlines, he survived an accident that nearly killed him and left him permanently changed. As a teenager, Emanuel worked at an Arby's restaurant in suburban Chicago one day. While cleaning an industrial meat slicing machine, his hand slipped. The blade cut deep into his middle finger, severing the tip almost instantly. Instead of seeking immediate help, he wrapped the wound himself and went home, trying to shake it off. The delay proved dangerous. The cut led to severe complications: 5 blood infections, 2 bone infections, a 105-degree fever, and gangrene. Doctors fought for weeks to save his life as the infection spread rapidly through his arm and bloodstream. He spent 7 weeks in the hospital, and surgeons ultimately amputated part of his right middle finger to stop the infection. Emanuel later joked about the injury, using it as a marker of resilience, but the truth is far more serious. He came within a day of losing his life to a workplace accident most people would overlook. Eric Stolhanska, famous for his role as Rabbit in Super Troopers and as a founding member of the Broken Lizard comedy group, has spent his entire life overcoming a challenge most fans never knew about. Stolhanski was born without a fibula in his right leg, a rare congenital condition that required doctors to fit him with a prosthetic leg from childhood. Growing up in Minnesota, he tried to blend in with other kids, even though his early prosthetic legs were made of wood and often caused pain. As he got older, the prosthetics improved, and so did his confidence. He has openly shared how he used humor to cope, even making up wild stories about his missing bone while flirting in college. Despite the physical limitation, Stolhanski built a successful acting and comedy career. James Doohan is remembered around the world as Montgomery Scotty Scott, the brilliant engineer of the USS Enterprise. But long before Star Trek made him a sci-fi icon, he lived a life far removed from Hollywood. He was a soldier on the front lines of World War II. In June 1944, Doohan landed on Juno Beach as part of the D-Day invasion. That night, while moving between positions, a nervous Allied sentry mistook him for the enemy and opened fire. 6 bullets hit Doohan. 4 tore through his leg. 1 struck his chest but was stopped by a metal cigarette case, and 1 shattered his right middle finger. Doctors tried to save what remained of the finger, but when movement didn't return, Doohan made the decision to have it fully amputated. When he later stepped into the role of Scotty, he often hid his missing finger on camera through careful hand placement and clever angles. By the early 1990s, Fitzgerald's health had begun to decline. Years of living with diabetes led to severe circulation problems, nerve damage, and vision loss. As her condition worsened, blood flow to her lower legs became dangerously restricted, causing infections that doctors could no longer control. In 1993, the situation reached a crisis point. To save her life, surgeons performed 2 separate operations, each one removing a leg at the knee. After the amputations, Fitzgerald stepped away from public life entirely. She never performed live again. Protected by her family, her team, and her longtime spokesperson, Mary Jane Atwater, the world had little idea of the pain she endured. Even as she fought declining health, fans continued playing her records, unaware that the voice that brought joy to millions was fading away in quiet isolation. Ella Fitzgerald passed in 1996, leaving behind a legacy of timeless recordings and a story of strength, resilience, and grace in the face of unimaginable hardship. In 1937, Porter suffered a devastating horseback accident. His horse slipped and fell, crushing both of his legs beneath its weight. The injuries were catastrophic. multiple compound fractures, that left him in agony. Over the next 20 years, Porter endured more than 30 surgeries as doctors tried everything to save his legs. Despite constant pain, he never stopped composing. He wrote hit after hit from a hospital bed, often with his legs bandaged or encased in metal braces. But the infections returned again and again. By the late 1950s, osteomyelitis, a severe bone infection, had taken hold, destroying the bone marrow in his right leg. In 1958, after 2 decades of suffering, doctors made the decision that could no longer be avoided. Porter's right leg was amputated from the thigh down. Deke Slayton is remembered as one of NASA's original Mercury 7 astronauts, a symbol of American courage and a pioneer of human spaceflight. But long before he trained for orbit or helped run NASA's missions, he survived a childhood accident that left him permanently missing a finger. Slayton grew up on a farm in Wisconsin in the 1930s. At just 5 years old, he was helping his father clean a horse-drawn mower, a dangerous machine of exposed blades and gears. While trying to clear jammed grass from the cutter bar, the horses suddenly lurched forward. The blades snapped closed in an instant. Slayton's left ring finger was severed clean off. The missing finger didn't slow him down. Slayton fought in World War II, became a test pilot, and in 1959 earned a place among America's first astronauts. Although a heart condition delayed his flight career, he eventually made it into space in 1975 during the historic Apollo-Soyuz mission. Dean Winters is known for playing tough, unforgettable characters, but none of his on-screen chaos compares to the real medical nightmare he survived in 2009. It began with what felt like a simple fever. The next day, his condition crashed without warning. While sitting in his doctor's office, Winters' skin turned gray, his head swelled, and he collapsed. During the ambulance ride that followed, his heart stopped for over 2 minutes. Paramedics revived him, and he spent nearly 3 weeks in the ICU battling a severe bacterial infection. Though he survived, the complications were far from over. After being discharged, Winters developed gangrene, a dangerous tissue-killing condition. He was rushed back into medical care, where he endured 17 surgeries over the following months. Doctors managed to save his life, but not all of his limbs. The infection had spread too far, and surgeons were forced to amputate part of his thumb and 2 of his toes.